I started as a stockbroker with Dean Witter back in the early 80s. In the late 80s, I went over and worked in a bank. They were just getting into the investment business. I became a sales manager. I had 10 financial advisors that reported to me, right? And we had some of them in the bank branches. And at the time, the bank employees were incented to refer their clients to us. In fact, they had incentive programs set up where they could earn quarterly bonuses, right? Everybody in the bank could earn more money if we hit our investment goal. So they were really dialed into this. And I remember, as in the late 80s, I got a call from a private banker at the bank branch. He said, Brian, we're really close to hitting our goal. I think one more sale will do it. I have a client, Mrs. Jones, who has a $100,000 CD that's coming due. She doesn't like what interest rates are. She's willing to consider something else. I've set up an appointment on Wednesday, which is the last day of the month and the last day of the quarter, to meet with her at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But our financial advisor, whose name was Rocco, is on vacation. Can you come and do the appointment? Sure. She says, but I have to warn you, Mrs. Jones is the meanest, nastiest client of our bank. I said, okay. So I'm in Syracuse, New York in March, and I don't know if any of you have been there, but we have some pretty harsh winters, right? It's still the dead of winter. Sun doesn't shine that much. There's a lot of snow on the ground. It's kind of that depressing time of year. So we go to her house at 2 o'clock in Syracuse. Kathy, the private banker, knocks on the door. Mrs. Jones comes. Now, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but do you ever take one step into place and already you can't wait to leave? Okay? That's the way this was. One step in and I got hit with this kind of dank, old smell or whatever, and I'm like, oh, man. And so we're standing there and we're exchanging pleasantries with Mrs. Jones, and she's taking our coats. And I look to my left, and there's like a family room. And the blinds are all drawn. It's kind of dark. The only light is the light of a TV. And I see sitting on the end of the couch an older gentleman who I assume is Mr. Jones. So I say, hello, Mr. Jones. Mrs. Jones says, don't even bother. I go, no, he's got Alzheimer's. He'll forget your name 2 seconds after you tell it to him. Okay. It's a little more depressing. But, my eyes have adjusted to the light, and I see some of their furniture in there. It's got cloth upholstery. But some of it is worn through, and the stuffing is actually coming out of it. Now, I know Mrs. Jones has at least a couple $100,000 with us at the bank. I'm like, why do they have furniture like that? She says, come on, let's go to the dining room. So we start walking to the dining room down this hallway, and I notice where the wall and the ceiling come together, the paint is all peeling. It's like, what the heck? So we finally get to the dining room, and she turns on a light, right? We're about to sit down there to go over her finances, and she says, oh, do you mind if my sister Mary sits in on this? Because she has money too. Not at all. So she goes and gets her sister Mary, and she wheels Mary in a wheelchair, all 82 pounds of her. There's nothing to her. And I think arthritis has racked her body, right? She's all contorted and gnarled up in this wheelchair. And I'm looking at Mary, I go, oh, are you kidding? And Mrs. Jones says, Mary, this is Mr. Doherty from the bank. And kind of an incredible thing happens. Mary, who can't lift her head, just kind of turns her head a little bit, and she smiles. And she's got this incredibly white, bright smile that lights up the room. Now, I know those teeth probably weren't her own, but it didn't matter because she was the brightest light in the room, and I'm like, Mary, I'm happy you're here. So I sit down. Mrs. Jones brings out all her statements, right? We knew about the statements she had with us at our bank. We figured she had statements from other banks, and she did. But what we were surprised, she had statements from mutual fund companies, Franklin and Putnam, right? So I get my legal pad out, my calculator. I got to add up all her assets. It takes me a couple minutes. I put the pen down. There's a number at the bottom of the page. It's $1.6 million. I was really surprised by that number. So I look up, and there is Mrs. Jones sitting directly across from me. This is an absolutely true story, no exaggeration. She is wringing her hands. She's got this incredibly intense look on her face, and she says to me, what should I do with the money? Now, I was in kind of a moment here, and it just kind of slowed down, and I kind of leaned back in my chair. I looked into the family room. I could still see Mr. Jones sitting on the edge of the couch, turning the channels manually every 1 to 2 seconds. And I'll never forget this because I saw the TV reflected in each one of the lenses of his glasses. I kind of caught that furniture again with the stuffing coming out of it. I looked up and I saw the paint peeling on the walls. I took a quick glance at Mary, all contorted next to me. I looked back at Mrs. Jones, and I started to lean forward in the chair. And I said to her while I was doing this, "Why don't you spend some of it?" And it was like I hit her with a 125-mile-an-hour gust of wind. She jerks back in the chair. She is shell-shocked, like Tom Hanks at the end of the movie Saving Private Ryan, right? But it only takes her a couple of seconds to get her senses back. And I can see it happen because this incredibly angry, enraged look comes across her face. And she leans forward right in my face and she just says, "What?" I wasn't backing down. I look at her and I say, "You got $1.6 million and look at the way you live." I said, "Why don't you buy some new furniture, put a new coat of paint on these walls? Why don't you take your sister Mary down to Florida so she can feel the warm sun on her face again? You're 77 years old, you have $1.6 million. Why don't you enjoy some of this money? What are you waiting for? Why don't you spend some of it?" And I'm looking at her, and now all those hard, sharp, angry lines on her face, they just melt away, and they become soft and rounded. And Mrs. Jones looks down the table. She picks up those statements, and she gently waves them at me. She says, "You know, when my husband and I first got married, we decided not to have children because we wanted to save our money for retirement so we could really enjoy it. Now look at him. He can't be out of my sight for more than 30 seconds. He's been like that for almost 10 years. And with tears welling up in her eyes, she takes these statements and she shakes them vigorously at me. She says, "I'd trade all of this, all of it, if I just had one child, if I had a daughter. And she lived here in town close to me, and she blessed me with grandchildren. And I could go over to her house on their birthdays and go to their Little League baseball games and their dance recitals and their school plays. And on holidays, we could bake cookies and cupcakes together." Now there's tears welling up in my eyes. She takes those statements and she says, "I'd trade it all for that." And she grabs the statements with her other hand. She looks at them. She looks up at me and she says, "Well, maybe I'd trade half of it." We ended up doing a lot of business with Mrs. Jones that day. Oh, yes, we did. And on the ride back to the bank branch, Kathy, the private banker, says to me, "Brian, I thought she was going to kill you. I don't think anybody has ever talked to her like that before in her life." I said, "Kathy, somebody should have talked to her like that a long time ago." And here's something I realized. You know what? When you say to people, "Why don't you spend some of it?" they like you. They do. Even the meanest, nastiest people will like you. I started saying this all the time. The number of friends I had, it tripled, it quadrupled. You know how they say you can never have enough friends? They're wrong. You can. There's some people you don't want to be your friends. So you have to be careful who you say this to. Now I'm going to show you this stuff here in terms of these strategies. One strategy in particular, you can increase your client's income by 40, 50, even up to 75%. You're going to blow them away when you show them this stuff, right? Their Social Security income. And when you do this, they may look at you and they may say, "Well, what am I supposed to do with all this money?" That's when you say to them, "Why don't you spend some of it?" Okay? And you know what? They're going to look at you differently. They're going to say, "You know what? I don't know why, but I'm liking you a lot better." You know why? Because you're telling them to spend some money. And I know you're thinking I'm joking about this, but you know what? During my career, probably during your career, we said to our clients all, "You got to save money for retirement," right? Saving money is hard, and it's not a lot of fun. In fact, I had a client many years ago. I said, "Joe, you need to save more money for retirement." He says, "Brian, saving money sucks, man." I go, "Yeah, I know it does, but you need to do it because when you retire, you'll be happy that you did." Spending money is easy, and it's a lot of fun. So this is going to be about spending money. And you start telling your clients to spend money, I'm going to tell you what, if they have money with any other financial advisors, they're going to give it to you. And if you show them this stuff I'm going to show you, all their friends probably have money too. They're going to say, "You won't believe some of the things I did, my financial advisor showed me with Social Security." They're going to send them to you as well.